Hello and welcome to Redacted Tonight VIP. I'm Lee Camp. We got a hell of a show for you. Today on the show, we're getting into Bitcoin. A lot of you have been wondering what's going on with the cryptocurrency the whole world is talking about. How in the hell is it now worth about $60,000? That's more than I spent on my college education. Granted, in other countries, college is free, but don't get me started on that right now. I'm looking at you, Estonia, if that is your real name. Anyway, Bitcoin. I figured it was high time we dug into it again. So why not have on one of the experts, none other than Max Keiser, the in-your-face host of the economics show, The Keiser Report. He'll be here to really dig down into Bitcoin, its future, whether it could one day be banned, and how in the hell we got to the point that even massive corporations like Tesla are putting billions into an online math equation. But then again, isn't all money now just a digital math equation? We'll also hear from Redacted correspondent Natalie McGill with a new segment on just how little privacy we still have. But first, here now is my interview with Max Keiser. Max, great to have you back on the show. How's life in the middle of the zombie apocalypse?
I'm loving it. The lockdown's been the best year of my life, Lee. I wish it could go on forever.
Good, good. So the last time I had you on the show, I think Bitcoin was worth around $10,000 or less. Now a single Bitcoin is worth around $60,000, more than the average annual salary of most Americans. Why is that, and what does it mean about our global economy?
Right. Well, I first started talking to you about Bitcoin when it was under $10, Lee.
Yeah.
Well, what it says about our economy is that the solution to all the problems appears to be money printing. And that's debasing the US dollar. And so people are looking for a safe haven. And the number one destination for safe haven today around the world is Bitcoin. And that's why you're seeing the price explode the way it is. Interestingly, Christine Lagarde, who's now running the ECB, recently talked about Bitcoin as being an escape valve. And that's exactly right. You know, if you're trying to escape debasement of fiat money, Bitcoin is where you go.
And in terms of some of the other characteristics of Bitcoin, you've said Bitcoin is progressive. Others believe that it's simply another tool for the rich to play around with, and it doesn't fundamentally change the system or change the exploitation inherent in it. Which side do you see as right on that?
I think it's progressive because you are replacing fiat money, which is easy to debase, and that's at the root of most problems. Going back to Occupy Wall Street, Lee, remember that was an attack on fiat money. It was an attack on Wall Street. Bitcoin can replace fiat money and replace all the criminality we see on Wall Street. So I think it's progressive in that sense. And it also is pointing out the basic lie underlying the entire U.S. so-called capitalist system, which is, in fact, a complete distortion and a complete farce. And that lie is what the government tells us about inflation. The government tells us that inflation is running at 1 to 2%, when in fact it's running at 10 to 12%. And that's a very important thing to understand, because it means that people on Wall Street who are spreading this lie and spreading all the money printing that goes with it are able to borrow money at near 0% and automatically get 10 to 12% return, because that's the real rate of inflation. And then, of course, you can leverage that rate of return, Lee, and get 50, 60, or 100% rate of return. That is the one fundamental lie underlying this U.S. economy that's repeated by Paul Krugman, the Washington Post, CNN, or any mainstream outlet, that inflation's running at 1 to 2%. That is an outright lie. It's running at 10 to 12% if you include housing, education, and housing, education, and one other thing. You get a real picture of the real inflation rate, Lee.
Yeah.
Food.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the keys for people to understand about Bitcoin, right, is that whereas dollars, US dollars, are inflationary, we keep printing more, they lose their value a little bit each time. Bitcoin is deflationary because there's a limited number that will ever be present in the world, right?
Right, and it's not a bad thing because it means it provokes competition and it provokes innovation. When we were under a gold standard, for example, you had a huge boom in the global economy because people had to innovate their way to make profits relative. What happens in a fiat money system is that you have people who are closest to Washington, people who have greatest political influence, get the free money the first from anybody else. It's called the Cantillon effect. And so we have these cantillionaires, people who simply their entire existence is based on getting free money from the government. And that just debases all money. But because of this lie about inflation, Lee, the people who get the money first are able to leverage it to make. I'll give you a perfect example, and this is happening all over the world. So the LVMH, the luxury brand company in France, was able to borrow money from the European Central Bank at 0% interest rate to buy Tiffany's. So they bought Tiffany's for free. They were gifted Tiffany's. And this happens all day long. Companies are being gifted to other companies by a 0% lending rate, and the wealth is concentrated in an ever decreasing number of oligarchs, and that's having devastating effect on everybody else. And that's possible because you have fiat money, you have 0% interest rates, and you have people repeating this lie about inflation. Inflation is not 1% to 2%. It's really running out of control. Inflation is running out of control, and policymakers are not addressing that because they're in the pockets of the people who want to become oligarchs. Look at Amazon, for example, bought Whole Foods for no money at all. It didn't cost them a penny. It went a second Whole Foods hit the balance sheet, it became accretive to Amazon's earnings. They started making money with it day one because it didn't cost them anything to buy Whole Foods. And that's an enormous problem, and that's at the root of this, the bifurcation or splitting of the economy, where you have this oligarch class now, and the poverty rates are going up, life expectancy is going down, all kinds of other problems, Lee.
Yeah. And I mean, I've believed, ever since we started talking, I've believed that Bitcoin is powerful. It gets outside of central banking, which is powerful. But the one thing that I wasn't sure about, I guess I'm still not sure about, is that there wasn't some way for the U.S. government to make it incredibly difficult to use or purchase Bitcoin. And in fact, just this week, the finance minister of India, which is home to 1.3 billion people, suggested there might soon be some kind of ban or restriction on Bitcoin there in India. I know it's impossible for them to fully stop it, but just as the U.S. government has succeeded in gutting or slowing down Anonymous or making it difficult for WikiLeaks to function, couldn't they not make it at least difficult to use Bitcoin? Is that not a possibility?
Well, the Indian ban on Bitcoin is a running gag. You know, they've done it. I think they've banned it at least 10 times already. Same thing with China. Also, Nigeria's got a ban, and it means absolutely nothing because of the nature of the Bitcoin protocol. You and I can transact, and it's uncensorable. Nobody can stop us from transacting. And also, it's unconfiscatable. The Bitcoin I have, the Bitcoin that people have, you cannot confiscate it. It's beyond the reach of any government. And that's the thing why I think it's a progressive issue, Lee, is because it means that the fiat money world is very prone to violence and war. The U.S. likes to go to other countries, drop bombs, and steal their assets. Well, if those assets are unconfiscatable, if they're all the assets of the country is Bitcoin, the U.S. can't steal that country's assets. So the U.S. is going to have to go to that country and negotiate in a friendly way to get what they want from that country. So it demonetizes war. It demonetizes violence. And in that way, it's a progressive issue, Bitcoin. Every progressive should love Bitcoin for that one reason alone. Yeah. It demonetizes war and violence.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also it helps a lot of people who are, debanked, who, poor people in various countries who could never get a bank account, aren't near a bank. So the fact that they can operate now without going through banks can be very important to a lot of people. Another question here, there's loads of other cryptocurrencies that are basically offshoots of Bitcoin. Do any of them matter, or is it just nonsense?
No, everything that's not Bitcoin is essentially another fiat money. So it's Ethereum or any of these other coins. They're competing with fiat money. They're not competing with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is unique, and there's nobody competing with it. And you can tell that by what's happening in the market. It's got 90% of all the, or more of all the technology, computational forces are on Bitcoin. The other coins are slowly dying, essentially. So there was a period back in 2014 where you had a lot of competitors show up, and then none of them have succeeded. They're all dying or failing in one way or another. None of them were successful. So, and Bitcoin's going from strength to strength. It's becoming the go-to reserve assets for a company like Tesla, MicroStrategy, and other corporations. Hedge funds like Paul Tudor Jones and Stan Druckenmiller are buying it. The sovereign wealth fund of Singapore is interested. Insurance companies like Mass Mutual are buying Bitcoin because they see that it's a store of value. It's unconfiscatable, and it's the only way to escape, or the best way to escape, this madness that's going on with the fiat money world. The U.S. in the last 6 months, they've printed 25% of all the paper money that's ever existed in America. You know, we went from 2 to 4 trillion of paper printed up until the last 24 months. From 4 to 12 trillion. It's absolutely parabolic off the mania of money printing, and it's showing up now as real inflation. Like, people are starting to notice that energy and food, we already see it in education and healthcare. I mean, education and healthcare has gone up hundreds to 200% the last 10 to 15 years. That's not 1 to 2%, Lee. That's a complete lie. And when that lie is exposed permanently and people say, you know what, I need protection against your out of control money printing, and that is going to drive more capital into Bitcoin. That's why it can go to many, many multiples of where it is today, 50, 60,000 today. I'm looking for it to go to 220,000 per coin in 2021, on its way to 500,000 to 1 million per coin, because there's that much bad fiat money in the system.
It's insane. Slightly changing the subject to our economy in general. Tens of millions of people have lost their jobs during this pandemic. Tens of millions are facing eviction soon. Tens of millions of businesses facing bankruptcy. Higher real unemployment than in generations. And yet, for the most part, the stock market keeps humming along. Billionaires doing great. They've gained $1 trillion. The largest corporations pretty much doing great. How is it that so many Americans can be suffering and the stock market isn't crashing? Do we now live in a plutonomy where the only thing that really matters is what the 1% are doing with their money, not what anybody else does?
It's the exact same question. Every problem is solved by printing money, and if you have political connections, you have first access on that money. Jeff Bezos gets the money first to buy back his own stock. Elon Musk gets the money first to buy back his own stock. The problem is the money printing. It's not with corporations or capitalism as such. It's about the central bank and the bankers colluding in a way that's undermining the value, the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar in an uneven way. So the people who are not politically corrected end up paying 18% for their credit, or if they're on a payday loan, they're paying thousands of percentage points for a payday loan, or 18% on your credit card. How come when interest rates have gone down for 40 years, it's still 18% on a credit card, but if you're politically collected, you can borrow money at 0%? That's because the banks collude. They don't allow competition. If there was competition in the banking sector, your credit card rate would be 3%, not 18%. So that's, and of course, the assets that are held by the books on the bank by the banks, when you print a lot of money like that, their assets go up in value because there's a scramble to try to protect yourself against the debasement of the currency. That means that the real estate on your balance sheet goes up in value, which you can use as collateral. And guess what? You can use the collateral and borrow at 0% to go buy more real estate. So it's a virtuous cycle based on this fraud about interest rates and inflation rates. Interest rates are doled out by the politically corrected at 0% if you're a friend of the people in Washington and the Federal Reserve Bank. But if you're not, you're paying 18 or 19% for food, for energy, and now you're in a vicious cycle downward. So you can only get poorer. You can never get rich in that situation where some people are charged 18% and some people are charged 0. That's always going to create a wealth gap, and it's only going to get worse the more money you print. And the solution for every problem in Washington is to print more money. So every time, like this stimulus check and all other stimulus checks and all money printing, MMT, universal basic income, will have the exact same effect. It'll make the rich richer. It'll make the poor poorer for the exact same reasons we just discussed. It's a horrible idea. It's going to cause massive problems.
Excellent points. I wish we had more time. What's the best way for people to keep up with you and Keiser Report and everything you do?
Oh, go to Twitter, of course. And you can follow me on Twitter at Max Keiser, and notice the absence of a blue check. I had a blue check, Lee, but I told them to remove it because I'm not elitist scum like those other blue checks. Remove it immediately.
I've actually emailed them to ask them to create a gold check just for me because I want to be better than everyone. So thank you, Max, so much.
All right, Lee. Talk to you soon.
We have to go to a short break, but don't forget to grab every episode. Every single one you can get for free by using the Portable TV app. You download it at portable.tv/download. Also, check out the Redacted Tonight podcast called Moment of Clarity. Many people don't know you can get this all as a podcast. If that's easier for you, it's free wherever you get your podcasts. All right, I'll be right back with a lot more.
I read, I turn on the TV, learn about the world and what's happening around me. I see shills on the screen spitting lies every day because the fake news narratives is how they stay paid. Seeing too many goons who are building up prisons with bomb after bomb, brick by brick globalism, making mile-high money off that endless war. But I found a network that'll question more. Science breakthroughs, outer space, civil strife, climate change, cyber warfare, coups, and violence. All that mainstream wants to do is keep us quiet. Watch the riots, can't keep us silenced. Critical voices, bold perspective. Question more is our directive. We don't take sides, we walk the walk. RT America means real talk.
Listen, stop letting online algorithms dictate what you get to watch. Go to portable.tv/download to get killer television. It's completely free. I'm talking award-winning comedy, awesome sports coverage, insights so fresh they'll taste like raspberries on a spring day, takes so hot they'll burn your face off. Thousands of videos, more added by the hour. Did I mention it's free? It's free. Go get it. Portable TV.
Oh, yum. Delicious. Take a bite.
Welcome back. I'm still Lee Camp. All right, so let's take a minute to get into another story that is blacked out from the mainstream media, but will blow your brain ball straight out your pants. Mint Press is reporting the U.S. and allies have dropped 46 bombs per day for the past 20 years. We are bombing people, mostly innocent people, endlessly. Before this segment is over, we will have dropped another bomb. We are in a perpetual state of war. The article continues. The United States and its allies have dropped at least 326,000 bombs and missiles on countries in the greater Middle East, North Africa region since 2001. Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, and Yemen are the countries that have felt the worst of the violence, but Lebanon, Libya, Pakistan, Palestine, and Somalia have also been targeted. Here are the takeaways, though, from this new research from CODEPINK, the reporting by Mint Press. Here are the takeaways that you absolutely, by the way, you absolutely won't get this on mainstream media. Number one, it's totally revolting that we are endlessly at war. Number two, we are a rogue nation, and no other nation is anywhere close to this bloodthirsty. Think about it. Name another country. Go ahead. Name another country that is bombing anywhere near this amount. Go ahead. I'll wait. No, you go. Go. Do it. I'll wait. I'll wait. I got time. Go ahead. What's that? I didn't hear anything. Oh, that's right. There's not any. There's not anywhere close. Number 3 takeaway. There is no democracy in this country, in America, because most Americans do not want this endless bombing, do not want this endless war, do not want any part of this bloodthirsty mayhem. Most Americans don't even know where these places are on a map. So if most Americans don't want this, why does it keep happening? Why is it endless? It keeps going because we do not have a democracy or even a republic. What we want, what you and me want, doesn't matter. It is what the endless war machine wants that actually holds sway. And finally, number 5, this shows that our mainstream media has no accountability to the truth, to reality, to any kind of peaceful or just or moral or rational world. No, the mainstream media, all those channels that get millions of views every night, they would never report this story because it doesn't serve their corporate daddy's interests. They are just stenographers for the State Department. They are a bullhorn for the Pentagon. And it benefits the gods of war to not mention that we drop a bomb every few minutes for the past 20 years. And in case you think this level of sociopathy, of bloodlust is a new advent in our country, just popped up 20 years ago, Mint Press reminds us it's quite otherwise. The United States has been at war for nearly every year of its existence as an independent nation, fighting in 227 years of its 244-year history. Think about that for a minute. Other countries have hardly been at war at all over the past 200 years, and yet we can't even take a pause, can't even take a moment. A pause for peace. We can't do it. But in order to maintain a global empire, you must keep your guns firing. That is how unfettered, ravenous, rapacious capitalism works. It requires infinite growth, and in order to grow, you must take over other lands and extract resources. It's endless. But I think a lot of people have had enough of this. Change is in the air. I can smell it. Or someone's reheating Indian food. But it's one or the other, and I'm excited about both. Moving on. If you were ever under the impression that you're being watched, you absolutely are. Yeah, that's a thing that's happening. Whether we opt in or not, most of our government and corporate institutions have crossed the line when it comes to our privacy. Here to keep track of the latest breaking news on the subject is Redacted correspondent Natalie McGill.
Welcome to our not-so-private parts, where we expose all of the new and exciting ways our corporations and institutions watch our every move. Which is also why we unfortunately can't use Rockwell's "Somebody's Watching Me" as our theme music, or else this video would be taken down immediately. And if you have a Ring camera outside of your home and a Nextdoor app for your neighborhood, then you know that COVID-19 was neck and neck with prejudice for things that kept Americans scared inside of their homes last year. But the proliferation of neighborhood surveillance cameras shows no sign of slowing down, which is evident by the emergence of another surveillance system called Flock, which outfits neighborhoods with artificial intelligence-powered cameras at affordable prices to give your neighbors the ability to read the license plates of non-resident cars that drive up and down your street, while somehow forgetting that non-resident cars also include Instacart drivers, nannies, rideshare drivers, and Amazon delivery people. Flock uses a surveillance network to read the plates called Talon, a totally non-threatening sounding name that definitely didn't remind me of a bird of prey feasting on carrion. But Talon produces 500 million scans of cars each month outside neighborhoods and businesses, and happens to be linked to 500 police departments in more than 1,000 cities across the U.S. Flock touts their cameras as a crime-solving tool that can drum up good press for police departments, which, if you haven't noticed, could use all the good PR they could get. And they also tout their camera's reliance on solar power, which is like our military bragging they built an Abrams battle tank from recycled tin cans. Or a cop saving the plastic rings from his six-packs to use as flex cuffs for black kids. But the concern about surveillance systems like Flock and Ring is the lack of accountability in how video footage is managed, and that these companies can be used as a workaround for police to get access to footage that they would normally need a warrant to get. Just ask the Los Angeles Police Department, which requested Ring footage of Black Lives Matter protests. Flock CEO Garrett Langley started the company in 2017 because he was once a victim of property crime. And he told Vice News' Motherboard, "I'm not someone with 25 years of public safety or law enforcement experience. I'm just a civilian that happens to be an electrical engineer. And when I think about the larger mission of Flock, it is to eliminate crime. And while nothing will ever truly vanquish property crime, there are certainly less invasive ways to put a significant dent in it, like earning a living wage, job training, access to substance abuse counseling, and youth programs. These are all easily Googleable solutions that don't require turning your dining room table into a fusion center. And as a matter of fact, you don't even need our Google overlords to figure that out, because in a spot of good news for once, the privacy-first browser Brave is developing its own search engine to compete with Google's. Since its birth in 2019, the Brave web browser has already gained 25 million monthly users for its option to surf the web anonymously without fear of your personal information being scraped. Whereas most search engines have to rely on Google's massive cached index, Brave will rely on an index called Tailcat that will produce similar top results as Google's with the added option to use filters to only show product reviews that don't contain affiliate links, or to only display results from independent media outlets. Imagine searching for news stories where the top result is actually truthout.org or inthesetimes.com instead of a cable news outlet featuring this face, or this face, or this, oh, God, ugh. I forgot she's on Fox News now. Ugh. This would be a better Women's History Month if this woman was actually part of our history. Reporting from an undisclosed location, this is Natalie McGill for Redacted Tonight.
And that's the show, but we have a new Redacted Tonight tomorrow, and if you want more mind-blowing redacted news, grab the free Redacted Tonight podcast called Moment of Clarity. It's available for free on Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. Until next time, good night, and keep fighting.